The Denver Broncos are primed to improve off of what was a very good 2024 season for them under head coach Sean Payton. They got the rookie quarterback Bo Nix out of Oregon, and he performed at a level many people did not see coming unless you were inside the building. Payton got his guy. He spoke about how he knew Bo Nix would be the future. But what will the 2025 season ultimately wind up being for the Broncos, who have very high expectations? Last season was a bit of an underwhelming finish, getting beat by a better Buffalo Bills team. This time around, the expectation once again is for the Denver Broncos to make the playoffs, but get a playoff win. How are they going to do that? Well, against the Buffalo Bills, after they took that 7-0 lead, it almost seemed like Buffalo was able to have their way in a sense. Offensively, Denver went out and they got star cornerback from Texas, Jahdae Barron. They pair him with the best defensive player in football a season ago. He got some medal to attest to that in the sense of Pat Surtain winning Defensive Player of the Year. And then on the offensive side, they got a bit of depth in the backfield with Harvey. So what will be this offense? They've got J.K. Dobbins back there, bringing him over from the Los Angeles Chargers, a kid with Ohio State, whole bunch of records he was able to break there. He looks, when he's healthy, like one of the best backs in football. The 2025 season for them starts off with a home game against the Tennessee Titans. This is a phenomenal way for them to shake off a little bit of the rust early on in the season. The first couple games, typically for most teams, take them a while to get going. With Denver last year, we were a little bit surprised that Knicks didn't have more chemistry with Troy Franklin, that it didn't transform into the NFL level after they were so prolific together at Oregon. I think we get Troy Franklin a bit involved and they take advantage of a Tennessee team that I'm thinking that they throw a couple picks from Cam Ward. It's a very rough start for Ward's first start as a quarterback, the number 1 overall pick against Denver, one of the best defenses in football. Week 2 at the Colts. This is one of the better starts to a season as far as a schedule goes. I'm down on Indianapolis. A lot of people are, because of the question mark at the quarterback position. Who's it going to be? Most likely Daniel Jones. Richardson has struggled. They haven't paid him a bunch of money, so the Colts aren't tied to him. Of course, it starts with stopping the run. That would be, I would think, the main concern for Denver in this game. So relying on the guys like Jonathan Cooper, Dre Greenlaw, who they brought over from the San Francisco 49ers, Talanoa Hufanga, those two guys they were able to poach from San Francisco and bring over, that add a bit of veteran presence, a sense of winning, and players that have been to a Super Bowl, won big playoff games, that will be able to fill in and help out with that veteran side. A win against the Colts on the road at Lucas Oil Stadium, 26-17. Overall, Bo Nix getting a couple of scores, I think, with his legs, being able to take advantage of Indianapolis, who does have good pieces on D. You're going to have to find a way to get outside of DeForest Buckner and find a way to get yards as an offense. First tough game of the year is at the Chargers. Look, the divisional rivals, it's going to be massive for Denver to just get one. You got to get one against the Chargers and one against the Chiefs if you want to be competing for the division. Don't think, and you can put this down in the comments if you disagree, whether there will be an impact in the overall scheme of the AFC if they can make a push to be one of the top teams in the AFC. Still a year away, in my opinion. The quarterback level of the Mahomes, even Justin Herbert, C.J. Stroud, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen has been so good. It's going to take time for Bo Nix to fill in. And one would argue that the receiving core needs work to be able to fully put in the supporting cast around Bo Nix to elevate him to a higher level, because you can be the best race car driver in the world. I'm not a big NASCAR guy, but maybe Dale Earnhardt Jr. is maybe the only one I can think of. If he's driving a Prius, not to call Denver a Prius, that's not a terrible car to drive. I drive a Toyota Corolla. But driving a lesser car will bring down the value of what that person can do capability-wise. I have a loss against the Chargers at SoFi, 27-20. Looks to be a good game, divisional clash. 2-1 overall, before a home game at Mile High against the Cincinnati Bengals. Monday Night Football, Buck and Aikman on the call. Everybody fired up. Bengals fans are excited about getting T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. The band is staying together with Burrow. The defensive side of the ball, of course, is where the struggles are. That's why I think the Denver Broncos put up 27. They hold on for a win, 27-23 against the Cincinnati Bengals, because they can get pressure on Joe Burrow. What will be so important this year for the Broncos to maintain success and continue to have an elevated, very high producing secondary that takes the football away is, of course, that sense of pass rush. Savion Jones, DJ Jones, Zach Allen, these players need to have impacts and get after the quarterback, especially one that processes information as well as Joe Burrow does. I've got to win in that. They're 3-1 before. It's just a very tough road game at the Philadelphia Eagles. Lincoln Financial Field, of course, the reigning Super Bowl champions. They're one of the few teams in the National Football League that can really pose a tremendous threat in the sense of leverage on a secondary because, of course, Saquon Barkley coming out of the backfield, being able to typically have 6-7 guys in the box to want to stop him. That means that A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are going to typically have opportunities in man-to-man coverage to take advantage. This looks to be one of the more fun matchups as far as a great elite secondary. How does the young corner and Jahdae Barron perform against that elite wide receiver talent? Have the Eagles winning 20-14, dropping to Denver 3-2 on the season, but still a lot of optimism that they can keep a game close against the reigning champs. They are at the Jets in Tottenham in week 6. I've got a clear win, 28-13. That Denver's just a better overall team. Playing against Justin Fields poses issues, of course, containing him, want to make him beat you in the pocket, and because of the lack, in my opinion, of them having a legitimate threat outside of Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, they can hand it to him 20 times, and Garrett on the outside. The third biggest threat on that offense is going to be Justin Field legs. With a guy like Dre Greenlaw, it doesn't incentivize you as much to run the football if you are Justin Fields. They faced off back in 2021. The Bears actually beat the Niners, but that was a sloppy, messy game in which the Bears offense looked pitiful at times, and we're quite lucky to pull it away. Denver 28-13 over the New York Jets and moved to 4-2 on the season before they come back home. Look, I think that it is a mistake they don't have a bye after this game, expecting a little bit of sluggishness in a home game, overlooking the New York Giants and ahead towards a showdown with the Cowboys. And I have them losing 17-20 against the Giants. The offense doesn't quite click, maybe a few turnovers, which sets up New York just only need to put up 20 points to beat them 20-17 in Denver, which poses to be overall, like I said, a characterization of what the schedule is. Would think that you would have the bye earlier in the season until it's not like week 11, falling to 4-3. Before they're at home against the Dallas Cowboys with George Pickens, it is of course going to be a struggle to contain that Cowboys offense. They have arguably the best quarterback to wide receiver connection, of course, Prescott to CeeDee Lamb. A healthy Micah Parsons poses the threats, of course, on Bo Nix, but he's much better an athlete, if people aren't familiar with Bo Nix's game, to be able to evade pressure and threaten the defense on the edge. You have to contain Bo and make him throw from the pocket like many quarterbacks in the league. It's just that Bo Nix in college, what he led college football in completion percentage and set a record, I believe, in college football history with Oregon in his super senior season with the Ducks. I've got the beat in the Cowboys 24-10. Ultimately, look at them being able to stop the run of Dallas and forcing Prescott to throw it about 40 times, or it is going to be the formula for Denver. Get teams to throw the ball over 33, 34 times in that range. It's going to bode extremely well with how talented they are in the secondary. At that point, that puts them at 5-3 before one of the toughest games of the season, if not the toughest, at Houston. And why Houston is one of the toughest games playing on the road at NRG Stadium is because of the sheer roster. When you have Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter on the other side, And Will Anderson is turning into one of the best disruptive forces in the National Football League. In the back end, of course, Derek Stingley, Kalen Bullock. And then, of course, on offense, when they went with Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, the two Iowa State phenomenal wide receiver talents, to go with, if Tank Dell is back, of course, Dalton Schultz. There's so many weapons with Houston, how they beat you, but a huge win. They move to the season 6-3 overall, winning it 20-19 on a late field goal to put themselves in a great spot on the year, heading into a Thursday night game against the Las Vegas Raiders, another divisional opponent. Why not continue the streak and win, make that 3 games in a row at that point, get to 7-3, beating the Raiders 24-18. This is going to be closer because of the factors in Ashton Jeanty and Brock Bowers. You can make an argument that a lot of people will agree with, that Jeanty and Bowers will wind up being the 2 biggest offensive threats in the past 2 drafts. Of course, the fantasy production from Brock Bowers would support that, and then Ashton Jeanty looks to be a top 10 running back in the NFL for years to come. It just depends on how good the Raiders are and the utilization of those 2 guys. Expecting Jeanty in this type of game to get about 30 carries, but a win 7-3 on the year, 24-18 before a home game, massive showdown with your arch rival, the Kansas City Chiefs. And Kansas City is going to have a down year next year. Losing a veteran presence and one of the best interior offensive linemen in Joe Thuney is such a huge factor. Will Rashee Rice be his former self, which was looking like a top 6 wide receiver in the NFL last year before he got hurt? Xavier Worthy, hot towards the earlier part of the year, slowed down in the middle, and then you saw him kind of explode in the Super Bowl, was the only bright spot for the Chiefs. I had the Chiefs winning 24-20. The veteran ability of Patrick Mahomes, he pulls out these crazy ones. Bronco fans know that a little bit all too well with that blocked kick in their game last year. But a loss 7-4 to the Chiefs sets the tone on a path on the railroad, so to say, that the Broncos are looking at a wild card and not the division before the bye week. And another tough game. This is such a tough part of the schedule, where I have them at the Commanders, losing on the road to Jaden Daniels. It's going to pose challenges. Jaden and his ability to move around might rush for 900-plus yards next year, with Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel on the other side, force-feeding the 2 of those guys the football, and a defense that doesn't get a whole lot of credit. It's a tough matchup. 17-25, the Broncos fall at the Commanders in a tough matchup, and to 7-5 on the season before a road game, and this is going to hurt. A loss to the Raiders, that makes 3 losses in a row, from 7-3 down to 7-6 against a Las Vegas team that has something in Geno Smith. I can see a productive game where Brock Bowers goes off with a defense, or Max Crosby is able to come up with a couple big plays. They can lean on Jack Besh, the rookie pick, and there will be opportunities for Denver in that, but I have them falling to 7-6 before. Again, I know that you're not going to like this, but listen, the end is better. A loss to the Green Bay Packers at home, 4 straight, a loss 24-17. People are up in arms, questioning Sean Payton somewhat, but as you can see, the production and the offense sails a little bit not crazy high on what Denver will be offensively. Like, the defense looks to be absolutely top 8 in the league. Offensively under Sean Payton, because of some of these surging offenses like that they're going to have to face in this list. Chiefs, Commanders, Packers, those are top 10 offenses in the NFL. Facing them and stopping Josh Jacobs. Green Bay on the outside now is a much different threat than what they have been the last 2 years. With Matthew Golden now on the outside, he challenges Pat Surtain, Jahdae Barron, and having to run with him. And then on the other side, they can stack Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Tucker Kraft over the middle of the field. And that Green Bay defense, one of the most opportunistic, finished top 4 in the NFL in takeaways at the end of last year, sitting about at that 30-31 mark. And a tremendous team before a home game blowout, 34-6. The Broncos take care of the Jaguars and firmly put themselves in a spot to finish the year strongly against 2 tough divisional opponents. They set up to be tough matchups, but beating the Travis Hunter-led Jacksonville Jaguars and, of course, their quarterback Trevor Lawrence, don't see the Broncos having any trouble whatsoever. The type of game where Trevor Lawrence is having people scratch their head and question like most of the season will be next year for Jacksonville, thinking like we might need to try to maybe go a different direction because it just is not working with Trevor. At the Chiefs, Thursday night game, of course. This is the Christmas showdown. Like, this is supposed to be the Christmas night game. A 27-23 win. The Broncos beat the Chiefs and firmly hurt the Chiefs' chances of the division, of the shot at a possible 1 seed for Kansas City. They beat them 27-23 on the strong play on the right arm of Bo Nix. Sean Payton dials up a great game plan, and they come out with a win, being able to limit the deep plays down the field and forcing the Chiefs to kick field goals. 9-7 on the year before a home game against the Chargers. At this point, it is a win and in for them to beat the Chargers, and I kind of think the Chargers might be in a spot where they win that game that they could be winning the division or sealing, like they already have it stacked, and they will fall to a Denver team. We saw how effective the Broncos were last year when they were in rhythm. They got, like any team is, of course, picking up significant chunks on first down, elevating a sense of the short passing game, getting the ball out quickly instead of the run, and being able to do that against the Chargers. Because if you're just leaning and trying to get it done against the Chargers, dropping back Bo Nix 40 times when you've run for 4 yards, 2nd and 6, trying to throw the ball, that's where that Chargers defense is still so good, returning like Khalil Mack. We obviously know Derwin James, and then they just suffocating you with their run game and those offensive tackles, and Slater and Joe Alt, and especially Amarion Hampton. Next year, the Chargers pose so many threats with Herbert. Did not turn the ball over all that much a year ago. And of course, the new offensive weapon with Trey Harris out of Ole Miss. Just a ton of very good players for the Chargers, but a win, 26-24, finished the year and set themselves up to be like a 5-6 seed in the AFC wildcard picture, right there, close to either the Chiefs or the Chargers. I've got 3 teams making the AFC playoffs once again from the AFC West division. This is going to be the type of year where the Broncos might have a shot. Like, they start 7-3 on the season, could obviously be thinking about taking the division, because there will be losses from the Chiefs that really shock some people, that they will be a lot more human than they have been years previously. Thank you so much for watching this. We just want to make sure, if I'm mentioning guys that might be a factor, that is because I'm not currently in Los Angeles. I am in Africa at the time that you are watching this video. Recorded this a couple of weeks prior to the upcoming season, because I knew the Africa trip was going to limit my ability to, of course, film and be able to come out with content. So we came out with everything ahead of time to keep the motion before the upcoming NFL season. That's why I might be mentioning some guys, and unfortunately there might be some injuries that play a huge role for the season for Denver. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments if I'm on the right track for Denver or not, what you want to see as far as content coming out towards the start of the regular season and in the season. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe, and I will see you next time.
Best player in college football.
That Georgia and Ohio State game, New Year's Eve, is going to be a classic.
Josh Blunder. Hi, everybody. I'm Josh Blunder.
To the 40, 35, 30, Espinosa to the 20.